Hello everyone, I'm Ivan Adrian Kosara. Welcome to my talk. Uh, In this talk, I am going to discuss about tracing small polynomials with real coefficients to exponential power. This is a joint work with Gleb Pogudin, Svetlana Selivanova, and Martin Ziller. And this is a pre-recorded talk, so if you have any questions, please wait until the end of the talk where I will come online. So the talk will consist of several parts. First, we will talk about um, an informal definition of the problem and some motivation about it. Then we will talk about the more detailed version of the problem statement as well as some motivations behind the details. Then we will prove that the problem is stable, which is basically it's not sensitive to small change in the input, which is important for its computability. Then we will talk about some complexity classes in the real number setting. You might be familiar with things like P and NP. We are bringing them to real setting, the real numbers. Then we will show that the problem is in sharp P, which is a class between P and P space, polynomial time and polynomial space. And in certain cases, we will show that the problem is in P, polynomial time. So what's the problem? We are talking about tracing polynomials to powers. So we are given a polynomial p and an exponent e. We want to compute the coefficients of p to the e. As an example, we have this polynomial half x plus half, and we are raising it to the e's power. Then the coefficient of x to the I would be the binomial coefficient e over I multiplied by 2 to the minus e, which in effect means we are approximating the binomial coefficient to some significant digit. The motivation here comes from wanting to approximate solutions to partial differential equations. Uh, to approximate such solutions, we are discretizing them. I'm not going to explain precisely what it means, but basically we turn it into a system of linear recurrences, which in turn can be solved by computing a matrix power, where the matrix is large and the exponent is also large. These matrices are structured and can be turned into polynomial. For example, here we have a matrix, a circulant matrix. The diagonals are all the same, the wrapped diagonals, and we turn them into a polynomial where the coefficients are the entries of the matrices. And because we are talking about partial differential equations, the entries will be real numbers, not just discrete integers. So the problem statement, we have a polynomial where the sum of the absolute values of the coefficients are at most 1. And these coefficients are approximated up to error 2 to the minus k. And we are given natural numbers e, I, and n. We want to compute p to the I, p to the e, the coefficient of x to the I in it, and we want to approximate it to error 2 to the minus n. Here, we want to emphasize that e is large. E is exponential power. In practice, we will usually have e to be equal to 2 to the n. That's why we want to measure complexity in n plus log e, because e has exponential size. And k will depend on n and e. Here, this k, the, the approximation of the input will depend on n and e. So here, this is the problem statement. It has several parts to it, so we will talk about some motivations of them. As mentioned before, n and e are the main parameters. I is actually just like it's basically bounded by e, all of e, because when p has some degree d and we raise it to the e power, then p to the e has degree at most d times e. So I will be at most d times e. If it's larger than that, the coefficient is 0. So the main parameters are n and e. So that's what we are measuring our complexity with. And as a reminder, e is exponential size, usually on the order of 2 to the n. That's why we have log e. And the naive method of just computing the polynomial, multiply it by another p and expand it, and then multiply by another p and expand it, and so on. It works, but in time polynomial of e, because we are measuring complexity in log e. This means it's exponential time. That's why we are looking for something faster if possible. Then, as a reminder, our polynomial has real coefficients. Because we cannot have full representations of real numbers, like it would be infinitely long, we have to work with approximations. We can, to show this, we will want to compute the output to arbitrary accuracy. For any given n, we want to be able to compute this output to that n. And we also have inputs that are given as real numbers. The polynomial coefficients are given as real numbers. We are only given them up to error 2 to the minus k. K itself will be explained shortly after this. Here, like mentioned before, the real numbers cannot be represented exactly, so we need to have approximations. But not only that, the approximations themselves cannot be too long. The input cannot be too long, so we want to prove that the problem is stable in a sense. So k cannot be, if k is too long, then we will take so much time just to read the input. Like the input is approximated to the error to the minus k, so it has k bits long. If k is too large, we will take so much time just to read the input. Similarly, the output cannot be too long. Here, we already know that we only need to approximate to error 2 to the minus n, so it's fine behind the decimal point, behind the binary point. But in front of it, the integer part, we need to show that p will not have a large integer part. For example, if we take p equals the constant polynomial 2, then 2 to the e will have 1, 0, 0, 0, 0. It has e bits long, and so we cannot even output it in polynomial time. We cannot write the whole thing. That's why we need to add some conditions. Here, the condition is the sum of the absolute values of coefficients is at most 1, which turn out to suffice for our uses and also satisfied by partial differential equations. So I mentioned about stability before. We need to look at this. Is the polynomial problem polynomially stable? Here, basic arithmetic operations on numbers basically takes time polynomial in input length, like addition, multiplication, and so on. That means because our numbers are given up to error 2 to the minus k, it has k bits long. Manipulating these numbers with addition and multiplication and so on, it takes polynomial in k. Now, we want k to be polynomial in n plus log e. Otherwise, this time polynomial of k will already be super polynomial in our complexity. So the time is there's too much time taken on reading the input. We want k to be polynomial in n plus log e, but then it raises a different question. Will it allow us to compute this error, this output to the desired error? As it turns out, yes, the problem is stable, polynomial stable. Basically, we have this lemma where if a polynomial has coefficients approximated to some error, then we can prove that p squared has the coefficients approximated to some error, which is the same error multiplied by some constant basically. And we will use exponentiation by squaring on p, where we have p and squared again, and so on. All these errors do accumulate, but turns out all these errors, the multipliers of the errors, like this 4D and so on, will turn out to be just 2 to the polynomial in log e. So the total output error is the original error 2 to the minus k from the input, multiplied by 2 to the polynomial of log e from all this accumulation. This needs to be smaller than 2 to the minus n, so we can just take k to be equal to n plus polynomial of log e, which is polynomial in n plus log e. So the problem is stable, polynomial is stable. And so we can actually talk about solving it. If it weren't stable, it wouldn't make sense to even ask whether it's reasonable to compute it or not. So before we get into the results, we will talk about complexity classes. You might be familiar with P and NP and P space like that. P is the set of problems that can be computed in polynomial time. Technically, this class talks about decision problems, which is problems that only have answer yes or no. So we want to talk about function problems instead. The function problems means they have more than two possible outputs. P talks about decision problems, so FP talks about function problems. FP is the set of function problems that can be solved in polynomial time. Similarly, Fexp time is exponential time. Fp space is polynomial space. It just takes a polynomial amount of memory. Now Fp is this. We are given this problem F is in Fp if it has an algorithm A where on an input X it outputs the result Ax, which should match the answer of the function. Now, how do we bring it to real setting? We basically introduce approximations like I mentioned above, like I mentioned before in the problem statement. Here, F is in RFP, real FP, if it has an algorithm A that on an input A, n, where A is just an approximation of the input X, it must still be able to output an answer where this answer is an approximation of the actual function f. And here k and m are polynomials. It's the same thing as polynomial stability as mentioned before. So that's how real FP works. Basically, given approximation of the input, we must be able to approximate the output within polynomial time. That's real FP, but there's another class called Sharpie, which is between P and P space. It's basically about counting solutions, and we'll just see the definition in the real setting. Here we have the algorithm A besides taking approximation and the precision, the accuracy n. It also takes W, which is usually called the witness. Here on a witness W, it outputs some number A of W. And the sum over all those W's, for all of our witnesses, is the approximation. Which basically means we can decompose the problem into several parts. Each one we compute the answer and then we sum over everything. The main important difference is that the witness that has polynomial length, that means there are exponentially many witnesses, but that's okay. We can decompose the problem into exponentially many witnesses as long as each part can be computed in polynomial time. We can this problem is in Sharpie, even though we cannot sum everything in polynomial time. That is covered by the definition. So as long as each part can be computed in polynomial time, it's fine. Now, we want to prove that polynomial powering is in Sharpie. It's in EXP time, as I mentioned before by the naive method. It can be proven that it is in P space, but we want to show it even better. It's in Sharpie. We use several facts. The first one you might be familiar from complex analysis is Cauchy's differentiation formula, or sometimes also known as Cauchy's integration formula. Our version here is that we have a polynomial Q. We can find the coefficient of z to the j by differentiating it j times. That's just standard derivative. But this identity is where the Cauchy's formula comes from. This differentiation is equal to taking this integral, the original function q, the original polynomial q divided by z to the j plus 1, and we take it around a circle around the origin, or any closed path of finding number 1 in general. And we also have a result by Kerr-Equal on complexity theory of real functions, which basically says if we have a real function f that is bounded and polynomial time computable, then the integral, the definite integral, can be computed in Sharpie. And so the approach is straightforward now. If we have this Cauchy's integration formula, we want to plug in our polynomial p to the e, and we want to find the coefficient of the index we want to find. Well, then this integral, we will parameterize it using polar coordinates to turn it into an ordinary Riemann integral. We show that the integrand is in fact polynomial time computable and bounded, and so by Cauchy result, the integral is computable in Sharpie. And this idea in fact works for a Q that is multivariate. It has multiple variables, and the coefficients can be more generalized than just real numbers. It can be complex matrix coefficients. So that's polynomial powering in Sharpie. But we want to try to find some restrictions in which it works in polynomial time. To do that, we will restrict the polynomial into just a binomial, just degree 1, ax plus 1 minus a. And then the precision of the problem, the n will be dependent on the exponent e. By we fix real c, and then we say that n is equal to c times log e. Now, note that because e is 2 to the n over c, this complexity is just reduced to just one variable, O of n. And also the coefficient that we want is in this form, e binomial I times a to the I, this one raised to the ith power, this one raised to the e minus ith power. We want to show that this is in polynomial time, and we use some theorems. You might be familiar with Stirling approximation, which is m factorial can be approximated by this square root of 2 pi m times m over e to the m. But in fact, this is actually a whole series, so Stirling series, where we can approximate the relative error as 1 plus a1 over m plus a2 over m squared and so on until at over m to the t plus some remainder term. And all of these coefficients are rational numbers, so we can work with them exactly instead of approximation with real numbers. So we can approximate m factorial with any desired relative error b over m to the t plus 1, which means the coefficient we want can be approximated with this relative error, some constant in the numerator, and on the denominator I into the t plus 1 by simply writing down the binomial coefficient as e factorial divided by I factorial times e minus I factorial. So with this result, we can show that if I over e is greater than a constant, then this relative error becomes 2 to the minus n times c plus 1 over c by taking p to be equal to c, basically. And this relative error, because of this term c plus 1 over c, it is larger than 1, so this decays faster than 2 to the minus n. So when e is large enough, this has relative error less than 2 to the minus n. But there's this assumption when I over e is larger than a constant. How do we handle it? We use a different theorem by interpreting this coefficient as probability. We have a coin that comes up heads with probability A. We want to approximate the probability that when we toss it e times, it comes out I heads. And the idea here is that if you are familiar with probability theory, this probability is highest when I is equal to A times E, and it decays really quickly as it goes farther from A times E, which is if I over E is far from A, the probability is very low. We can just approximate it with 0. We can make it formal by using Chernoff bound. Basically, the coin tosses are the x ends, and x counts the number of heads, and the probability that it is large, it is away from the mean A times E by delta, by amount delta, is at most this. By plugging in some delta, this will be small. This will be small enough, and by taking E to be large enough, mu will also be large, that this becomes less than 2 to the minus n. And so what it means is if I over E is not close to A, so that if this part is satisfied, then the probability it happens is at most 2 to the minus n. It goes small for large enough E, large enough exponent. So we can just approximate this by 0. So to repeat, the approach would be like this. We assume that E is large enough, and by Chernoff bound, if I over E is not close to A, we return 0. Otherwise, it is close to A. In particular, it is larger than some fraction of A, because we are holding A as constant. This means I over E is larger than a constant. And by Stirling series, we can approximate this by relative error at most 2 to the minus n. And because this number is at most 1, we can, in fact, this relative error becomes absolute error. And we can show that each step is in polynomial time, so the problem is polynomial time. We can generalize this to multivariate polynomials, but still with degree 1. And the coefficients themselves can be real numbers, even though as long as the norm, the sum of absolute values is still at most 1. So to recap, we are talking about polynomials with real coefficients raised to the large power. And this problem is stable. We showed that it is in Sharpe by using Cauchy's differentiation formula and by result by Koch. And for degree 1 and dependent accuracy, we can show that this is in polynomial time by using Chernoff bound and Stirling series. We showed some generalizations of these problems, but this still leaves quite a lot of questions for future work. Here we showed that the problem is Sharpe. Can we do it better? Can we do it polynomial time? Or in fact, is it Sharpe complete in a sense? Is it Sharpe the best we can do? And here we have this result. Can we get rid of the various assumptions here? So that concludes my talk. Thank you for listening.